Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. My phone buzzed nonstop and the bridesmaids chat jumped to life. I am Alex, 27, and I knew something snapped right then. Every bubble on the screen looked louder than the last one. Megan had sent a screenshot before anyone asked a single thing. By the time I opened it, my hands already tingled with dread. It was a booking confirmation, bright letters, and a ridiculous logo. The subject line said Adult Entertainment Club, like it was no big deal. Under that there was a time slot and Megan's full name. I stared at the words private stage package until they blurred together. Even then, I tried to tell myself it might be harmless. One bridesmaid sent 10 fire emojis and the link under the screenshot. I tapped it and the site opened on a half-dressed lineup. Men leaned around a glittery pole, bills stuck like little arrows everywhere. Above them, a banner promised wild dances, champagne, and optional private experiences. My throat went tight and I knew exactly what kind of place this was. Tyler's voice flashed in my head like he was right behind me. He had joked once that any fiancé of his could party anywhere but there. No strip clubs, no private shows, no blurry videos to haunt them later. Reading that banner, I knew Megan was crossing every single line at once. I still tried to breathe slow and pretend maybe I misunderstood something. The chat kept racing while I scrolled up trying to catch context. One girl wrote, "This is going to be insane," and dropped a winking gif. Another asked whether we should bring extra cash for tips and surprises. Megan replied, "Relax ladies, the guys there are professionals and very respectful." Reading that word respectful almost made me laugh out loud from sheer panic. You know that itch when everyone smiles and you feel the floor tilt? I sat there, thumb frozen above the keyboard, heart going way too fast. Part of me wanted to drop my phone and pretend I never saw anything. The other part was already rehearsing how I would confront Megan about this. Either way, I knew this screen was a small bomb waiting to go off. New messages popped in before I finished one single sentence in the text box. Megan wrote, "This is strictly girlfriends only, nobody mentioned the venue to Tyler." She added 3 smiley faces like it was some harmless inside joke between us. The group lit up with yeses and hearts and more excited nonsense. I just stared because that sentence about Tyler changed everything for me. Back then I told myself I was overreacting and being dramatic again. Now writing this, I can see that was the moment I got drafted. Not as a bridesmaid, not as a sister, as the accidental whistleblower. My thumbs hovered over Megan's name while the read receipts blinked at me. I knew the next message I sent would decide whose side I stood on. I jabbed Megan's icon and opened a private window with her. My thumbs moved before I calmed down enough to think. Did you actually reserve that place for your bachelorette or what? I typed it fast, then watched the dots pulse like a heartbeat. I still hit send like I was picking a fight. Her answer popped up almost instantly, and it was just emojis. A whole row of laughing faces rolled across my screen like confetti. "Calm down, you maniac, it's a party, not a court hearing." I stared at that line until my jaw clenched and ached. You know Tyler would lose it if he saw that website. I deleted that last sentence and rewrote it 3 different softer ways. "Megan, I'm serious, you promised this would be low-key, remember?" I hit send, then braced for her to blow up at me. She answered with another bubble before I could lock the phone again. "You're being dramatic as hell right now, like chill." I called her because texting felt useless and my chest was tight. She picked up on speaker with laughter in the background and music. "Why are you freaking out already? It's weeks away, chill." "Because you hid the location in the group and told everyone to keep quiet. If this is no big deal, why does he need to be in the dark?" She went silent for a second and then her tone turned sharp. "Do not drag him into this, Alex, you always do this. This is for me and my friends, he gets his bachelor thing. You always make me feel guilty when I try to have fun." Hearing that flipped the script fast and somehow I became the problem again. I swallowed what I wanted to yell and pressed my nails into my palm. I am not trying to ruin anything, I just do not want him blindsided. You literally told us not to mention it in the chat at all. You know that makes it feel sketchy even if you refuse to admit it. She let out a heavy breath and then went straight for the ultimatum. Look, you have two options, come support me or bow out. But if you show up, you keep your mouth shut about where we are. No hints, no warnings, no little speeches to anyone on his side. She let that hang there with the background noise like she knew it worked. My ribs felt too tight and suddenly I was the one on trial. I could have refused and warned him anyway, that thought flashed through me. I could have baited from the whole thing and kept my conscience clean. Instead, I heard myself agree, my voice weirdly calm while my stomach dropped. Fine, I will come, and I will not say anything before your night. I thought keeping that promise might protect her. I had no idea what it would do to everything else. My screen lit up with Tyler's name and my thumb froze. I hovered over decline for a full second while my pulse jumped. Then I forced myself to accept because ignoring him felt worse. His voice came through cheerful and busy, and totally unsuspecting. I already knew whatever I said next would not be clean. He launched straight into schedules and headcounts and who might cancel. I answered on autopilot, short replies while sweat gathered under my collar. He joked about centerpieces and table drama, and I gave weak laughs. All I heard under everything was the unspoken question about trust. It sat there between us while he planned his own wedding day. After a pause, he shifted topics with this casual little sigh. So bachelorette and bachelor stuff, you two figured out your plans. My throat tightened for a second and I made my voice light. Yeah, she has something lined up, some big night with the girls. I could feel the lie forming before I even finished the line. He chuckled, then grew more serious so fast it actually startled me. Look, I am not a saint, but I only care about one thing. Nothing that ends up on some trashy site or in someone's secret folder. No dancers in our laps, no back rooms, nothing we would hide. His tone went hard on that last part and my stomach knotted. I tried to breathe slowly, but it came out choppy and thin. Okay, so like in general, where do you draw that line exactly? He went quiet for a moment and I knew he was thinking. Strip joints are off limits, obviously, that is the one place I cannot handle. If she ever did that kind of scene and kept it quiet, we would have a serious problem. Those words hit like a door slamming in my ear. I stared at the wall, phone pressed too tight against my cheek. I kept hearing her voice from yesterday, telling me to stay silent. It felt like I was standing between two trains moving straight at me. I still opened my mouth and made everything even messier. Okay, totally random question, please do not freak out right away. What if she mentioned some wild club once just to shock people? He stopped breathing for a second. I actually heard the pause stretch. What kind of place are we talking about exactly? I could picture him sitting up straighter, expression closing down. My hand shook as I pulled up the confirmation on my screen. My eyes skipped over the logo because I already knew it by heart. I read only the name out loud, trying to sound amused. Yeah, that one. She threw it out there like some insane idea. I added, I think she just wanted a reaction from the bridesmaids. Silence again, but this time it felt colder and heavier. Give me a second, I want to look that up real quick. I heard clicking and faint background noise while I paced the hallway. He came back on and his voice had lost every trace of humor. That place is disgusting. If she actually booked that, I would be done. My knees almost buckled because I knew that reservation already existed. I leaned against the wall and forced a laugh that sounded wrong. Wow, okay, so that is a hard no from you then. Hard no, you know I joke around, but I mean this part. No stages, no grinding, no private anything, that is non-negotiable. I had two choices sitting right there, both of them bad. I could blow up her secret or pretend this conversation changed something. My chest hurt and I hated both options in equal measure. I chose the one that made me feel like less of a traitor. I lied in a way that felt almost honest while it left my mouth. Relax, she already dropped it. I talked to her about it yesterday. It was all talk, no contract signed. She got that it was too much. The words came out smooth and practiced like I had rehearsed them. On the other end, I heard him release this long, relieved breath. You have no idea how much I appreciate you keeping an eye out. That line cut deeper than anything else he said that night. You are the only one who would actually tell me the truth, you know that. I pressed my forehead against the wall and wished he could not hear me breathe. Yeah, of course, I murmured, I will never let anything crazy happen to her. Even as I said it, I knew I had already let something slide. After we hung up, I just stood there with the quiet ringing. My call log showed both their names stacked almost on top of each other. I opened our sister chat and typed 3 versions of a confession. Each one started with "we need to talk" and ended in disaster. I erased every word and tossed the phone onto the couch instead. Lucky. In G-back, that moment was the real point of no return. I convinced myself I could manage it, that my presence would keep boundaries. I told myself I was protecting both of them from unnecessary drama. Really, I had just given Tyler permission to trust a future that did not exist. Later, when the videos started flying around, his voice from that call echoed over every frame. I sat by the door with my shoes on and keys in hand. The bridesmaids thread buzzed nonstop while I typed one short excuse. "Hey, work crisis, I might not make it out tonight." My thumb hovered over send like it weighed 20 pounds. If I bylaid now, I broke my promise and maybe dodged a disaster. The chat popped while I was still hesitating over that line. Megan dropped a selfie from the hotel, lips glossy and eyes bright. "My girls better be ready, tonight is legendary." The others spammed reactions and inside jokes and stupid dares. Watching it, I felt like I was about to defect from my own team. I changed the message and made it sound weaker and more polite. "Hey, I am feeling off, I think I should sit this one out." I hit send before I could rewrite it into something braver. Within seconds, little bubbles appeared. They always moved faster as a group. My chest thudded while I waited for the first reaction to land. One bridesmaid wrote, "Wow, cold, canceling on your own sister's big night." Another added, "You better not run to Tyler with details." I stared at that last line until my scalp prickled. Even when I pulled away, they still believed I might blow the secret. I typed back fast before I lost my nerve again. "I am not telling him anything, I just cannot go there." My fingers shook, but the words looked firm on the screen. Megan answered with 3 dots, then nothing, then dots again. Finally, a short line appeared, tight enough to feel like a slap. "Do what you want, just stay out of our way." I dropped the keys on the table and kicked my shoes off hard. For a second, I thought about grabbing my bag and chasing them anyway. At least if I stood in that club, I could drag her back. Instead, I stood in my quiet place, listening to my pulse in my ears. That was the moment I gave up the only control I had. Hours later, I was on the couch in old sweatpants, hair yanked up. The house felt too still for what I knew was happening across town. I tried to focus on some random show and let it drone. My phone vibrated face down on the cushion beside me. I lasted maybe 10 seconds before I reached for it. The group window was flooded with photos and little clips. First, there were shots in the ride, drinks raised and mouths open. Megan leaned across the backseat, laughing so hard her mascara almost streaked. A text sat under one picture, "We are starting sweet and ending insane." My stomach lurched even though I was safe in my own living room. Then the first video from outside the club appeared with a tag. The sign filled the top of the frame, the same tacky name from the confirmation. Underneath, one of the girls wrote, "We actually did it, no backing out now." Someone else added, "Alex is missing the show of the year." Reading that, I suddenly wished I was there just to yank her away. More clips rolled in, noisy and shaky and too close to faces. A dancer strutted past, body oiled and confident, Megan screaming in the background. One video showed Bills hitting the floor around his feet while he moved. The chat went wild with whoops and endless reaction icons. My palms started to sweat just from watching pixels jump. Then a longer clip loaded and I felt my ribs tight. They had convinced her to get on stage. You could hear them chanting her name. She climbed up, laughing with one hand covering part of her dress. The dancer took her hand, spun her, pulled her closer from behind. Money blurred across the bottom of the frame as the girls yelled louder. Megan leaned back against him, head tipped, completely gone in the attention. He slid down in front of her, moving between her knees while she howled. Hands reached from the front row to pass more cash toward them. One of the bridesmaids yelled, "Make that man earn his tip." I felt something twist inside because I knew exactly how Tyler would see this. In the next clip, she sat in a chair while he straddled her lap. Her hands were on his shoulders, fingers digging in for balance. She tossed her head back and someone shouted that she was officially off the market. Another voice yelled, "Last night of freedom, use it." I realized every person recording had forgotten these phones existed outside that room. A notification showed that one of the girls had saved the video separately. Right after, she posted it again with a new caption for another thread. Her comment said, "This is going to destroy my boyfriend when he watches." The others cracked up like that was the funniest thing they had heard all week. All I heard was the word destroy echoing against my conversation with Tyler. I told myself to throw the phone across the room and stop. Instead, I kept watching as another shaky clip uploaded slowly. This one started with Megan sliding off the chair, breathless and flushed. The dancer leaned down to her ear and said something I could not hear. Then he guided her toward a curtain in the back corner. The camera followed them partway, catching glimpses of staff and tables. From the angle, you could see Megan glance back once, then disappear behind fabric. The woman filming turned the lens on her own face, eyes wide and thrilled. "Private room for our bride," someone wrote under the upload with 3 devil icons. I went cold because I could not pretend this stayed in harmless territory anymore. The last clip came in shorter, almost an accident. It showed the hallway near that curtain, door slightly open at the end. A male voice from behind the camera snapped, "What the hell is this?" I recognized it instantly, even distorted and half drowned by music. Tyler's cousin stepped into the frame and yelled, "Turn that off right now." The video cut there, a harsh freeze in the middle of his shout. For a few seconds, nothing moved in the chat, no new icons at all. I sat with my phone clutched so tight my fingers ached. Every instinct screamed at me to call someone, anyone. All I could think was that I had just watched the wedding end in real time. My phone started ringing before the chat even woke up again. Tyler's name filled the screen with 3 words under it, "Call me now." For a second, I watched it vibrate on the cushion beside me. Then I grabbed it with sweaty fingers and forced my thumb to swipe. I already knew this call would hit me harder than those videos. He did not yell right away, which somehow felt worse. His breathing was rough, like he had run upstairs. "Where is she right now?" That was the first thing out of his mouth, flat and tight. I glanced at the last clip, that hallway frozen on my screen. "At the club," I answered, "with your cousin and all the bridesmaids." My voice sounded small and dry, like it belonged to someone else. He muttered something under his breath that I did not catch. Then his tone snapped into focus, sharp enough to make my neck burn. "You remember our talk about that place, right?" My chest pulled tight because of course he went straight there. "Yes, I remember," I answered, hand pressing against my leg. "You told me she only mentioned it as a joke." He threw my own line back at me, word for word. "Tell me you did not lie to my face that night." I swallowed so hard it hurt and tried to breathe slow. "I believe she was backing out when we spoke," I pushed out. "I thought she would change the reservation and pick something else." That was true at the time, or at least I wanted it to be. Silence stretched while he decided how much of that to believe. He broke it with a new sound, short and ugly. "My cousin just sent me a clip from inside that dump." He described it in one sentence, Megan on stage with that dancer. Every detail matched what I had watched from my couch. Then he asked the one thing I had tried not to picture. "What do you think happened in that back room, Alex?" His voice shook on my name, anger and something worse. I stared at the frozen frame with the curtain half open. I hated that I might imagine more than what was actually there. I also hated that he was asking me to confirm his nightmare. "I do not know what happened in there," I answered honestly. "What I know is she walked back there and she did not look forced." He let out a harsh breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "So you knew enough to stay home, but not enough to warn me." That line hit harder than any insult could have. I tried to explain the deal I had made with her. I told him she cornered me, made me promise to stay quiet. I told him I thought being there would keep it controlled. Every sentence felt like I was stacking excuses in front of a fire. He listened through all of it and then cut straight through. "You did warn me once, remember that? You mentioned the club and then reassured me she dropped it. You held my hand on the edge and told me to step back." His voice broke on one word and then hardened again. "I trusted you more than anyone in this entire circus." He sent a text while we were still on the call. My screen lit with a thumbnail from one of the longer clips. In the shot, Megan sat in that chair, dancer in her lap. He had circled something on the image before sending it. Her hands locked around his neck like she never wanted to let go. Tell me if I am crazy for thinking this crosses every line. The question came out quiet and ragged, like he already knew the answer. I could have tried to soften it, I could have dodged. Instead, I heard myself say, "You are not crazy, this is bad." The moment I admitted that, I watched whatever hope he had left drain out. He did not scream, he did not beg for details. He just spoke slowly, like each word W. Ate a lot. The wedding is off, Alex, I cannot marry someone who does this. I went cold even though I had seen it coming. He ended with one last hit that still sticks under my skin. You did the right thing telling me about the club originally. You should have finished the job and told me everything. Then he hung up, leaving me with my ear buzzing. I sat there with the phone against my cheek, long after the call ended. When I finally moved, the bridesmaids' chat had exploded. Messages flew across the screen, half frantic and half defensive. Who sent the video to his family? This was supposed to stay in the group. Megan is losing it in the bathroom. Every line read like they were shocked the night had consequences. I tried to type something and erased it 3 times. Finally, I wrote, "Tyler knows," his cousin recorded it and showed him. The responses hit back to back like small punches. "Nice job, snitch, you tattle first chance you got." Another message popped up, "I knew we could not trust you." I dropped the chat and opened my direct thread with Megan. "Are you okay?" It looked pathetic on the screen, but I sent it anyway. The message sat as delivered with no little read mark. I stared until my eyes hurt, then tossed the phone away. I did not sleep, not really, just drifted in and out. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that stage again. I kept hearing his voice, that flat line about the wedding being off. By the time the sun came up, my head pounded. I had not heard one word from my own sister. The first call in the morning came from our mother. She did not bother with greetings, her voice already cracked. "What happened last night? Why is Tyler texting that the ceremony is canceled?" I sat up too fast, room tilting for a second. "How much do you know already?" I asked, because that mattered now. She told me all she had was one short message from him. "Something came up, we cannot go through with this, I am sorry." No explanation, no follow-up, just radio silence after that. They tried reaching him and his parents, no luck. By the time she called me, our family group chat was boiling. I told her about the club, the videos, the cousin. I kept my voice simple, no extra commentary, just sequence. She gasped once when I mentioned the private room clip. Then she went quiet, which for her is always a warning. When she spoke again, the tone had shifted away from shock. "Why did he even know what club it was, Alex?" Her question landed heavy, full of accusation I had been waiting for. I reminded her of the earlier phone call, the one before the party. I told her how I had tried to feel him out about boundaries. She listened, then found the piece she could turn against me. "So you told him the name, then told him it was canceled. You made him feel safe, and then this happens. Do you realize how that looks?" I pressed my fingers into my forehead, heat building behind my eyes. No matter how I explained it, my choice came out twisted. I refused to let that be the whole story, though. If you want to blame someone, start with the person on that stage. I kept my tone steady, but my heart hammered. I did not buy the ticket, I did not drag her into that room. Mom exhaled hard through the receiver, stuck between anger and fear. "Come over," she said finally, "your father wants everyone here." Her voice had that clipped edge she uses when disaster hits. I hung up and got dressed on autopilot, hands moving faster than my brain. Driving over, I kept rehearsing what I would and would not say. I knew once the 4 of us sat down, there was no pause button. When I walked in, my parents were already at the table. My father had his arms folded, jaw locked so hard it looked painful. Mom held her phone like it might ring with good news any second. No one hugged me, which told me everything. The only open chair was across from both of them, like I was on trial. He slid his phone across to me with one gesture. On the screen was the same clip, Megan in the chair. Someone had slowed it down and zoomed in on every contact point. "Where are her sisters in this?" he asked quietly. "Because I only see one who decided she was above it all." The hit surprised me, even though I should have expected it. You think I should have been up there with her? I asked. I kept my voice low, because if I raised it I would crack. Or you think I should have kept my mouth shut with Tyler too? His eyes flashed and I watched him pick which side to attack. You do not run to the fiancé with half a story. You either stay out or you bring the truth without spin. He spoke like this was simple math anyone could do. What you did was the worst of both, he concluded. You calmed him down and then left him to find the rest online. That part stung because it was at least partially fair. I opened my mouth to push back, then closed it again. Mom jumped in before I could settle on wording. Right now we are not pointing fingers, we are getting her home. She looked at me, eyes sharp. You need to get your sister to this house. I texted Megan again, then called. Straight to voicemail, over and over, no buzz, no answer. After the 5th try, I finally got a response, a single text. Stop blowing up my phone, I'm dealing with Tyler. Even written out, I could hear the bitterness. I typed back fast, heart banging against my ribs. You need to come here, Mom and Dad need to see you. She replied with 3 messages in a row, all clipped. I will swing by, not for a lecture, this whole thing is already insane. There was no apology hidden anywhere in those lines. She arrived an hour later, still in last night's makeup. Her hair was messy, dress swapped for leggings and an oversized hoodie. She moved like everything hurt, but her eyes were hard. Nice little mess you made, she tossed at me as she came in. Our parents watched both of us like referees waiting for the first punch. Mom tried to start gently, it lasted 1 sentence. Honey, Tyler's talking about calling everything off. Megan laughed, a short disbelieving sound with no humor. Because of some party, because his cousin wanted attention with those clips. She looked right at me on that last word. Dad pulled up another video on his phone, this time the hallway. He pressed play and slid it so she had to watch. She flinched when Tyler's cousin's voice shouted from behind the camera. Then she shook her head, lips pressed tight. Nothing happened in that room, she said. I was in there 5 minutes. I wanted to ask what exactly nothing meant to her. Instead, I watched her try to sell that line to our parents. The dancer talked, we joked, he tried, but I pushed him off. She crossed her arms, digging nails into her sleeves. You all act like I vanished for hours with some stranger. Here is the part where I will be honest with you. I do not know if her version is true, I was not there. What I know is the videos before that room were already rough. You add a curtain and a screaming bridal party, and it does not matter. At that point, trust is not about timestamps, it is about images. Dad pointed at the phone like it was Exhibit A. Tyler will never forget this, even if he forgives you somehow. Then he turned to me, and you fed him the club name weeks ago. You handed him the key and pretended the door was locked. It was the first time that day I thought he might actually hate me. Megan jumped on that opening like a lifeline. Exactly, she snapped, you poisoned him before we even went out. Her finger stabbed the air between us, eyes bright with fury. You always wanted to look like the responsible one next to me. Congratulations, you finally got your perfect contrast. I felt something in me snap right then. You begged me to keep quiet, I shot back, you called me dramatic. You wanted the wild story without any consequences attached. Now that everything exploded, suddenly I am the mastermind. My voice rose on that last word, sharp and shaking. She stepped closer, almost nose to nose with me across the table. If you had not brought that place up to him, he would think this was normal partying. He would be mad, sure, but not cancel the wedding on the spot. You planted that one club in his head and then let it rot there. And do not pretend you did not enjoy playing hero when he called. Mom tried to cut in, palms up, telling us to lower our voices. Neither of us listened, we were past turning the volume down. I told her about that call from my side, how he begged for honesty. How I wanted to warn him and protect her at the same time. How I ended up failing both in one night. For a second Megan's face flickered, something softer underneath the anger. Then it hardened again, like she shoved that away. You could have just stayed out of it, she whispered. You could have trusted me to handle my own relationship. Instead, you talked to my fiancé behind my back like some undercover parent. That line cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Because she was not entirely wrong about that part. I jumped in as moral referee when no one had asked. I thought I was the only adult in the room. Looking around that kitchen, I realized I was not acting like one. Dad ended it with a single decision, spoken like it was final. We are taking a pause on wedding planning until we hear from his family. No deposits, no meetings, nothing, everyone just sits with this. He pointed at both of us in turn, you two stay off social media. His look on that last sentence made it clear who he blamed more. Megan left not long after, keys jangling in her fist. She brushed past me so hard our shoulders slammed. Do not text me, she muttered, if he walks away this is on you. The door shut behind her with a sharp bang. I stood in the entryway, hands shaking, parents watching without moving. In the days after, everything fractured in 100 small ways. Vendors started messaging asking about rumors and canceled dates. Friends picked sides in group threads I was not in. The bridesmaids blocked me or left my messages unread. Tyler never called again, not once, not even to argue. The official news came through a short post from his side. Wedding canceled, thank you for understanding, please respect our privacy. No names, no scandal, just a clean public cut. It still felt like a spotlight on my face. Inside our family, the story grew sharper teeth. Megan told people I had gone behind her back out of jealousy. She told them I had always been controlling and now proved it. Some believed her without question because that version was simple. Others looked at me with that mix of pity and suspicion. No one wanted to hear my messy middle line. Eventually she blocked my number, then my accounts, then everything. I found out through our mother when she moved out of their place. Apparently she packed in one rush, barely spoke a word. Last my parents heard, she was crashing with one of the bridesmaids. The same group that filmed her last happy night as a bride. So here is where I land when I replay it now. I did not make her climb on that stage or follow that dancer. I did not hit upload or send clips to his cousin. But I also did not tell the whole truth when it mattered. I left everyone half informed and then watched the rest unfold. If you are waiting for a neat moral, I do not have one. I am not fully innocent, and I am not the main villain either. I tried to protect both sides and ended up trusted by neither. My sister lost her wedding and a chunk of her family in one shot. I lost her, which somehow hurts just as much as knowing I might have prevented it.